Good afternoon.
Hi.
This week, since it's Friday, I've noticed a couple people that have some mistakes in their brain on how something works. So we're going to go over two things, count them 1, 2 things, so we can try and remove those mistakes out of your brain. That's why I told you not to open your computers yet. I told you to have your computers closed. We'll use those in a bit, but I kind of want to go over this first, because you'll probably see something like this again. Now you had some questions on division of decimals and it had pictures on it and you had to figure out the division. This is one of them. Actually, this isn't. This is one I made up that's similar to one of them. And it gave you 4 answer choices for what the equation was. And all the equations, and as it is in this one, they were divided. And so we're going to take something, divide it by something, and it's going to equal something. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to try and figure out how many groups this has been divided into. So how many groups is this divided into? Bam, bam.
3.
3 groups. 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups. So we're dividing it by 3.
3 divided by
Our quotient would be how many are in each group. And each of these equals 1/10, and each of these equals 100. Cierra su computadora. So how much, what is the value of one group? Thomas? 64 hundredths. 64 hundredths. Because there are 64 hundredths in each group. Now where I saw the mistake was what I just did. We're not dividing 64 hundredths by 3. 64 hundredths is in each group. So that's our quotient. That's our answer. 64 hundredths is our answer. This divided by 3 equals 64 hundredths because there are 64 hundredths in each of the 3 groups. Now, what I just did is what I saw a lot of people do, and they thought the 64 hundredths was being divided. The 64 hundredths is not being divided. This whole thing is being divided. All of these together were divided into 3 groups. So now I just need to figure out how much all of these together were. I could count it. Anybody know a different way besides counting? Because that's a lot of counting. Ryan?
multiply.
Good. I could multiply my quotient
32
times 3. There are 2 numbers behind my decimal point in my problem. So there needs to be 2 numbers behind my decimal point in the answer. So you started out with 1 and 92 hundredths. You divided it by 3. And each of these 3 groups has 64 hundredths in it. And I did some in each of the other classes too, so you can look at them. All right, one other thing I need to point out. When we did the division yesterday and you had to write the answers down, I told you to email them to me or share them in a Google Doc or something. Some of you put remainders. There are no remainders when we're dividing with decimals. How is that going to happen? Well, let's watch. If I have the problem 16 2/10 and I'm dividing that by 5, the first thing I do is I move my decimal point straight up. Once I move my decimal point straight up, I am absolutely done with it. I never have to do anything else with it again. Again, it's where it needs to be. I don't have to mess with it. I don't bring it down. I do nothing else. I could write my multiples of 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. However, I have a multiplication chart at the ready, and I will just use that. So I'm not going to make you write those all down if it's a 1-digit number. Now I have to ask myself, Does 5 go into 1? And myself says,
No.
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 Then I have to ask myself, self, does 5 go into 16?
Yes.
Yes. Okay? This is why I put my lines above it. Because so many times I've seen people do the division right, but put their decimal point in the wrong place. So this is why I do these little lines to make sure I have the decimal point in the correct place. I'm going to have a whole number, and then I'm going to have a decimal, part of a number. And then I ask myself, how many times does 5 go into 16? Myself says?
3.
Then I know 3 times 5 is 15. I subtract 1, bring down the 2. Then I ask myself, how many times does 5 go into 12? Myself says? 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract and I get a 2. So what I saw on that assignment, because this was this exact problem, is I saw people put 3.2, remainder 2. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Chloe, what should I do?
Add a 0 behind the 2. Add a 3.
I add a 0 here. Well, why did you do that? Well, let me explain it in this way as an example. Jeremiah, I have 16 and 2/100ths. Can you give me, or 2/10ths? I have 16 and 2/10ths. Can you give me 0/100ths? Okay? If he gave me 0/100ths, I have nothing.
16 and 2/10.
So it stays the same value. But now, I can bring this 0 down, and 5 can go into 20. I ask myself how many times, and myself says?
4.
Now I can add zeros as many times as I want,
Cause you ain't gonna get nothing.
because it's not going to change the value. Usually it's going to ask you maybe to go out 3 times and then round. But you're not going to have a remainder.
You don't want to do that.
You're not going to have a remainder. You're going to end up with decimal numbers. Questions?
No.
All right, thanks guys. Appreciate it.